Seven Japanese high school students who are prodigies in their fields survive a plane crash only to find themselves in another world with magic where a race of humans with animal-like features called Boomas live alongside humans. Winona, a Booma, and her elf daughter Lyrule rescue and treat the prodigies. Elm villagers learn of the legend of seven heroes from another world who saved the continent from an evil dragon. Tsukasa instructs his friends to learn more about the Fragigard Empire and its culture so they can find a way back home and help improve the welfare of Elm Village as a way to repay him. They scare the soldiers of a local feudal lord into leaving the villagers alone and not reporting the incident to their lord. While they help in their own way, the prodigies keep on going. Masato and Elch run into problems getting money and supplies for Elm Village when they discover the Nuchilin Company has a monopoly on commerce in Dormont. Shinobu uses her skills to dig up scandalous information on the mayor of Dormont, allowing Masato to obtain a permit to trade under the name Elm Trading Company. To compete with Nuchilin, Masato and Elch visit local merchants and offer to help them sell their goods in Dormont through a consignment shop. To support Elm Village, Masato's shop sells everything from rugs to homemade mayonnaise. When the Sea Serpent Maritime Merchant Company starts trading with Masato, Nuchilin decides to take the threat seriously, opening a rival store to undercut Elm's prices and drive them out of business. Foreshadowing his plan to permanently destroy Nuchilin, Masato shows Elch several Booma outside. As a result of the merchants boycotting Nuchilin and instead signing a contract with Masato to supply Elm Trading Company, the head of Nuchilin Company admits defeat and makes a deal with Masato over trading rights in Findolf. Slave traders try to recapture Rue, but Masato buys her freedom after she promises to become a great merchant to free her parents. A giant bear attacks the village, killing Winona's father, village chief Olga, and causing Kane to heal Olga's wounds. Meanwhile, Masato and his friends return to Elm Village only to be arrested by Marquis Findolf's soldiers led by his knight, Inzaghi. Inzaghi falsely accuses the villagers of treason, claiming that having gold coins is a crime against the nobility. Despite Inzaghi's punishment of having the villagers burned inside their homes, Akatsuki manages to free the villagers before Tsukasa and the others arrive. When Marquis Findolf tries to kiss Lyrule, she is protected by a mysterious magic. Departing from the Elm villagers to save Lyrule and start a revolution to overthrow the Fragigard Empire and turn it into a modern democratic nation with equal rights for all. The prodigies and Elm villagers easily storm Findolf's castle and fight his soldiers while Shinobu and Tsukasa sneak in to rescue Lyrule. Tsukasa enters Findolf's room but is shot by Findolf's flintlock pistol. Tsukasa, however, escapes unharmed thanks to his bulletproof suit and pulls out his own handgun. In fact, the prodigy's actions and ideals have made them enemies of the Empire, and they will not stop until the revolution is complete. Later, a mysterious being uses Lyrule's body to tell Tsukasa and the prodigies to save the continent. Tsukasa plans to form an independent nation as everyone celebrates saving Lyrule and defeating Findolf's army. The prodigies found a religion called the Seven Light Faith, with Akatsuki serving as God and the rest of the prodigies serving as his angels, in order to easily convince the populace to accept them and their new nation. They are able to convince the people of Dormont to switch allegiance from the Empire to the Seven Light Faith by using Akatsuki's magic tricks and free gifts of mayonnaise. Tsukasa later strikes a deal with Dormont's mayor, Walter von Hazerad, to have the city peacefully defect to the Seven Light Faith while maintaining his position, and talks with Zest du Bernard, the former captain of the Dormont Watch, about becoming the leader of the newly formed Seven Light Knight Order. After convincing Bernard that his daughter's future in their new nation is worth fighting the Empire for. Meanwhile, Shinobu and Elch travel to Butchwold, where they learn that the Empire has dispatched an army to reclaim Findolf from the prodigies, led by Duke Oslo el Gustav. a war hero and infamous control freak. Gustav kills Inzaghi at his castle for fleeing rather than fighting the rebels and vows to burn them. Tsukasa's ministers and friends are concerned that he is working too hard as he implements his political reforms and modernizes the people's livelihoods. With the empire preparing to attack Findolf in the spring, Tsukasa modernizes the Seven Army Lights by commissioning Ringo to construct a power plant and a factory for mass-producing guns in preparation for the impending invasion. Lyril believes Tsukasa despises her due to his refusal to accept her attempts to repay him for saving her, but Masato assures her that Tsukasa is keeping his distance due to his guilt for initially telling the Elm villagers not to rescue her from Marquis Findolf. Later that night, Lyril confronts Tsukasa in his office, revealing that he used to admire his father, the previous Japanese prime minister, until he discovered how corrupt he was. With the assistance of his friends, he exposed his father's corruption, which resulted in his arrest and subsequent execution. But it harmed his relationship with his mother, who loved her husband and never forgave Tsukasa. Tsukasa has since dedicated himself to becoming a selfless politician for the people, which saddens Lyril, who assures him that she will always love him. Elsewhere, Rue struggles with multiplication, but eventually succeeds with the assistance of the other prodigies. Meanwhile, Shinobu and Elch uncover a village's dark secret. Shinobu and Elch stay at Emerada and Melinda's inn in Kokonono, Gustav's lands. Shinobu becomes suspicious when she notices the villagers are not eating the food they serve despite being hungry, and she and Elch soon discover Kokonono's dark secret. The villagers have been secretly drugging travelers before killing and eating them. After learning that Melinda tried to warn Shinobu and Elch to leave the village, Shinobu gives herself up to their leader, Silver Knight Jean du LeBlanc. In response, Emerada apologizes and explains that when Duke Gustav took over their land, he forced the villagers to turn Kokonono into a beautiful town using their own money and ordered them to always keep clean, meaning they could no longer farm for food or earn money. His rigid rules forced the villagers into cannibalism to survive, which many of them regret. Meanwhile, Jean frees Shinobu and asks for her help from the Azure Brigade, which opposes Duke Gustav's tyranny. Angry that his army has yet to attack the rebels at Findolf, Duke Gustav decides to use his magic spear, Heaven's Flames, to destroy Dormont. To stop the spear from hitting Dormont, Tsukasa and Ringo use the many anti-aircraft missiles in Findolf. The spear pierces Dormont's noble district, sparking a fire, prompting Mayor Walter to order a civilian evacuation in accordance with Tsukasa's emergency manual. Despite successfully evacuating the populace and containing the fire, Duke Gustav summons fire spirits from his spear to murder the residents of Dormont and further spread the fire. Lyril informs the prodigies that the entity that possessed her has instructed her to destroy the spear in order to prevent Heaven's Flames from spreading. AI volunteers to escort and protect the missile from Gustav's fire spirits in order for it to destroy the spear. Using Ringo's final missile, the missile destroys the spear and puts an end to the Heaven's Flames, which Duke Gustav senses and vows to exact revenge on the rebels. As the prodigies assist the people of Dormont, Lyril reveals that the being who possessed her also bestowed upon her knowledge of magic and the ability to communicate with spirits, and thus she wishes to learn how to use magic to aid. Tsukasa orders a surprise attack on Duke Gustav's army led by Zest and 50 soldiers armed with winter gear and semi-automatic rifles. Based on information from Shinobu, Gustav directs Marquis Arclide and Marquis Butchwold, along with their forces, to invade Findolf immediately, despite their protests that attacking unprepared in the winter is a terrible idea. Arclide and Butchwold's forces are forced to retreat after being driven back by Zest forces using semi-automatic rifles and grenades, and both marquis eventually surrender to the Seven Light Faith. Simultaneously, the Azure Brigade assaults Duke Gustav and his men in their castle. Jean and Shinobu confront Gustav and command him to surrender. but he refuses, resulting in a fight. They eventually defeat Gustav, but not before the Duke uses his magic to blow himself up, ostensibly killing himself. Following the Seven Light Fates and Azure Brigade's takeover of Gustav's lands and restoration of order, the Prodigies convene to discuss whether the Azure Brigade can be trusted and become allies. Tsukasa concludes that the Azure Brigade, especially their new leader, Count Conrad, is hiding something from the Prodigies. Cain tells Tsukasa and Ringo to take a break before their overworked schedules cause them to collapse. They agree, and Tsukasa invites Ringo on a date to a popular restaurant. But AI and Cain's experience is in skills and not in romance. Shinobu's best advice is to hold hands and indirect kisses in a series. They begin their tour of the town, forced to disguise themselves to avoid the commoner's gaze. Ringo's plan to hold hands with Tsukasa is foiled when they arrive at the restaurant. She feigns an embarrassment when she switches drinks with Tsukasa to share an indirect kiss. She dreams about her mother, who was artificially inseminated to create a prodigy child. When Ringo began winning awards for her genius at such a young age, her mother abandoned her. She was left with nothing until Tsukasa showed up at her school one day and kept giving her broken objects to fix. This made her happy and made her fall in love with him. She wakes up on Tsukasa's lap, thanking him for bringing her here. Tsukasa admires the town's seaport before assigning Ringo an important task. Shinobu learns that Conrad intends to have the Azure Brigade rejoin the Freyjagard Empire, as Tsukasa predicted. While Ringo's latest project causes a penicillin shortage, a septicemia epidemic has spread among the commoners. To allow his guild to sell opium to the sick, Count Cerentius demanded Cain's permission. She instead makes a deal with Cerentius. If she can't cure the sick with coal, she'll let him sell opium. With Lyrule's magic and Cain's chemistry knowledge, they transform the coal into sulfonamide, enough to cure all the patients. Cain stops Count Cerentius and his men from poisoning the sulfonamide and destroying the Seven Light Faith's reputation. Ringo finishes her latest project, an ICBM. General Nero allows Conrad and the Azure Brigade to rejoin the Empire, but wants them to destroy the Seven Light Faith, whose ideas of equality go against the Empire's survival of the fit mantra. On the other hand, Conrad's knight Razenak and his men attempt to kill Jean, but she is saved by Shinobu, who kills them all after Jean learns he killed her mentor and former Azure Brigade leader, Count Blumart. Shinobu assures Jean that Seven Light Faith will help achieve her mentor's original goals of improving the welfare of the people. Conrad returns with Tanganyika, whom Shinobu recognizes. Tanganyika, disguised as Gustav, kills Conrad for destroying his golden statue. He then attacks Jean and Shinobi, who were hiding in the same room. They flee, but Gustav destroys the castle, killing every guard. Gustav is blown up by Ringo's new ballistic missile as he marvels at his new abilities. The blast is seen from Dormont, where the Prodigies are considering using the weapon. Ringo consoles Tsukasa, who fears he will be despised for negotiating diplomacy with the other nations. The next day, the Prodigies address their citizens, with Tsukasa revealing that they are now one nation, the Elm Republic, and must defend themselves as such. During his speech, Gustav transforms into a demon and attacks the Prodigies. AI and Shinobu try to kill him, but are repelled by the mysterious gem protruding from Gustav's chest. Gustav leaps toward Tsukasa, who pulls out a gun and shoots the demon. Gustav warns Tsukasa of the challenges ahead and brags that the Prodigies will never triumph. While a Yamato Empire trio watches the events in Dormont, General Nero suggests the Seven Light Faith may be a hindrance. Tsukasa, feeling inferior to the other Prodigies, ponders Gustav's warning the next day. The other Prodigies, who have invented a biodegradable mayonnaise container, greet him, as do the townspeople.